welcome. Thank you so much for meeting us.
Good afternoon. Nice to meet you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am Ms. Sushma
Good afternoon.
Swaraj.
Nice to meet
This
you.
is my co-negotiator, S. Jayashankar. If you could please introduce yourself so we can get on with this.
Certainly. I am Syed Fatemi. I'm the Foreign Minister and Special Assistant to the PM. This is my colleague. This is these.
Temina Janjua.
Thank you.
I'm the Foreign Secretary. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Please have a seat.
Thank
Begin now. Right, I would just like to thank both of you for agreeing to this negotiation. I understand that there have been a lot of issues in the past, and specifically in the facts leading up to this, let's say, dispute itself. And I would just like to thank you to choosing, let's say, a non-legal option to sort this out. I understand that this is an incident that is important to both of our countries, and we represent the legitimate interests of our governing authorities at the moment. That being said, I would just like to state we have special and qualified authority on behalf of our Prime Minister to settle this dispute, whichever way it should lead. And if we could just confirm the authority that you represent from your country, we would be like, if you would be so kind.
Certainly. We also represent the interests of the Pakistani government. We have qualified authority to deal with whatever issues arise in this negotiation. In fact, I must say it's quite a pleasure meeting in the city of Shimla. It's quite a historic city. We had the Shimla conference in 1945, and well, then the conference didn't work out, and our nations had to go on separate paths right then. But I hope at this back-channel negotiation we'll be able to sort of reach a better and more conciliatory sort of approach.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, again, I'd just like to thank you for taking out the time. Let's hope we can rewrite history here and make it a better one. Now, that being said, I do believe that since there are a lot of disputed facts, I wouldn't particularly, at least from our side, want to get into a dispute on the pure technicality of, let's say, where the individual in question was arrested, who made what statement, and I believe like both of our respective press releases have a lot of claims.
Sure.
We don't really want to go into the technicality of how it came to be.
And we can cut straight to the chase.
Certainly. Yeah. So that being said, we'd just like to understand what his conviction in your country really means. I mean, I understand that the I'm sorry, and correct me if I'm getting the terminology here wrong or correct, but under the Field General Court Martial, he has received a verdict of being guilty under certain statutes of your country, and he's been awarded death sentence. So could you please elaborate on the significance of this sentencing within your country?
Sure. Did you have anything to add before that, or should I just...
Not particularly. Sir, you can just add the meaning of what.
Yeah. So, well, so the Pakistan Army Act is an independent act which provides absolute authority to the institutions that it has set up.
Right.
So the place where Mr. Jadhav alias Patel has been convicted is the FGCM, the Field General Court Martial. Right. It's a body comprising of, I think, 3 officers of the Pakistani Army. Right. This is under Section 87 of the Pakistan Army Act.
Certainly.
And so how it works, basically, the Pakistan Army Act provides for appeals within itself. It is a self-contained sort of an act, right? So the only appeal from a FGCM is through Section 133B, if I'm correct. And under this section, you can appeal to the Court of Appeals, basically. I think that's, logical. Court of Appeals, and there is no further appeal from the Court of Appeals.
Certainly.
So I think the sort of remedy after that would be to merely sort of send a letter to our Prime Minister maybe, and he'll sort of have a look at it. But yeah, that's how it works.
Sir has clarified the legal situation pretty well. So I must add that these are perfectly in compliance with our domestic laws and regulations.
Absolutely.
And if you have any concerns regarding that, we are most willing to hear the same.
Sure.
If you have...
See, one of the basic concerns we had over here in this situation was with regards to, what were the interests or what were the main reasons behind which the consular access and consular representation in this case was refused. Because we believe that, a lot of notices, a lot of, requests were made with this regard. And, we had an idea with regards to this that, at least some sort of consular representation or consular access in this particular case should have been granted. Now, we believe that, and we've seen over the past year that, no such requests have been heeded to. So, we would like to know in the beginning as to what was the main reason behind refusing such requests, and going forward, what do you feel regarding if we do make another request citing the same reasons?
So I could clarify our legal position here. We believe that according to international law, we are not in violation of any standards.
Right. Yeah.
If I understand you correctly, was that your question? Or was your question what exactly were the reasons why we didn't reveal that information?
See, on basically there was a at least some sort of notice should have been sent to the Indian High Commission regarding the arrest, and in this particular case, what was happening. But consequently, certain requests were made regarding consular access. So obviously, that would ideally lead to, in this scenario, international law per se. But with regards to that, we just want to know what were the main reasons as to why would a consular access, the basic requisite, would be refused in this particular case.
And if I may just add to that and just summarize what my partner here just said, we understand that there is a certain amount of disputed legality with regards to the convention under which we are claiming this consular access. I'm sure you have your interpretation and we have ours. But that being said, even if as a token of goodwill or a gesture of faith, normally when it comes to a matter as serious as this, some kind of representation from the country under which the accused hails from, we ideally feel should be provided. Like, even if it is simply to observe proceedings and try to help him and guide his counsel on what kind of defense strategy he may take. So in terms of that, if we would just like to ask, under what circumstances that is currently not being provided, that's all. We just like some clarity.
Let's just be sort of clear, we're not kidding ourselves here. This is sort of a sensitive thing.
Exactly.
Right? And this is not just a lamb which, say, crossed the border
Of
and
course.
we're keeping it or anything. We believe there might be something which is valuable to us from this particular individual. And we believe we have legitimate reasons to deny you access to that particular individual. And we believe on that we are on particularly firm footing. In fact, our legal department has backed us up on this multiple times, and that we can in fact deny access. I understand that you would perhaps look on grounds of equity, or that you would we could grant you access, but I feel that is not an obligation that we are willing to do. It's not anything.
If I could clarify the legal position, we believe that is the case. I'm sure you could clarify that with us. I believe in 2008, both our governments signed a particular agreement regarding the exchange of such personnel where they would be awarded the death penalty if security reasons were also a part. There, I think we were very clear that in such cases, consular access may not be granted. And therefore, we believe pursuant to that, we have several reasons, security exceptions particularly, where we might deny you the same.
Yeah, I think this is a particular point of law that we want to make sure both of our parties are aware of. Right? This, yeah.
No, like initially, like my partner over had thanked you to take this step and, at least hear out what's happening. And again, I would just reiterate the fact that, we are really great that you have actually chosen this step and, at least just to clarify a few things, you've taken this step. But, we certainly understand, your interpretation of the law and your understanding of how you're moving forward, because that's, I think, uniform everywhere, because, we had certain interpretation, you have certain interpretation. That's we completely agree with. Now, moving forward, one of the major things that we had in our mind is that, if you, regarding security concerns are there, we understand that, you also would in every likelihood prioritize your own, the safety of your nation and everything, security, national security and everything. But we believe that, in this case, if some certain sort of exception could have been made, because, we believe that if you had certain evidence with regards to the fact that he was actually a threat to your national security and your national, integrity in that regard. So if we just, want to clarify in this particular case, if you did actually have certain sort of evidence, and if indeed you had some certain evidence, how threatful was that? Like, how, because we believe that, his presence was mainly on the fact that he was there, and, that just as a normal person with a visa in Iran. So, the whole idea was to ensure that basically he has some sort of consular access by the end of the day once he's arrested. So, if there is any threat, we would like you to please highlight over here as to what sort of threat was there and what sort of evidence you had to, completely rely on that.
Correct. So if I understand you completely correctly, your twofold question is, what was the evidence which was used to convict Mr. Jadhav?
Yeah.
And second, what was the threat that makes us refuse you consular access?
Yes.
Regarding the first point, sir, while I personally did not supervise that case, I believe that the military tribunal which did so found sufficient evidence to convict him.
Yeah.
And we believe the same was in conformity with our laws and regulations. Now, sir, I as well cannot challenge what Pakistani law says on certain subjects. And therefore, I believe I may not be the best person to answer this question. I apologize for that.
Yeah.
And might I add, we have full faith in the process under the Pakistan Army Act. So
Yeah.
we are sure that's a fair and reasonable process. We've in fact even provided counsel to the individual. So in that sense, we've sort of made sure that everything's done by the book.
Sir, regarding the second point about why pragmatically consular access may not be granted because of security exceptions, I think sir will agree here that disclosing that would again be another security question. And I I understand your concern and where it comes from, but our position is such that declaring such things might not be feasible at the current point of time, if you understand that.
We completely understand, because this is certainly an issue of great importance. But again, the two things I would like to highlight in this particular case would be that, first of all, the information of his arrest was passed on after 21 days, which you must have and understand. Secondly, the information regarding where he was arrested was contradictory with regards to two high officials in the army. And so we believe that, there are certain conflicting statements here with respect to the fact that where he was, what was he doing, what was the purpose of visit, what were these threats. So we believe that, we understand that, you have certain concerns which probably you are not the best person to delineate as to the interests, and you also would protect your own sovereign integrity over here. But we believe that, at least some sort of consular access in this particular case should have been granted, because, as a matter of just goodwill, because the whole idea was to ensure that he has some sort of representation, because if we are not able to approach him with this regard, and we are not trying to, in this particular case, completely delineate the fact that, there is no need of, him being tried under your law, or him being going against it in your courts. We agree to that, do that, but, at least there should have been some sort of, if there is a possibility of some sort of understanding, maybe from this point onward we might have some sort of consular representation and that access. What do you think?
If I just may add on, I understand that I said that obviously past facts are something that we don't really want to touch, but as far as I understand, the press release is released from both of our sides. I understand that you released a video with it which showed him making a confession, whereas on our end, the only things we claimed are things that have been published in your media. Right. Be it the fact that there are different officers claiming that he was arrested at different places, be it the fact that, the consular services have been denied 13 times now without any particular reasons. On our side, honestly, we have just been trying to make it as, let's say, legally polite as possible. We have not really withheld anything in terms of our security matters. We haven't really tried to force our hand in any term, and still we don't want to push for any kind of international legal litigation to try and determine the true nature of the Vienna Convention on Consular Access or services. So the point is that we're just looking from your side now, what interest do you represent here that you would like to pursue with us? Because honestly, so far, I mean, you're very staunch on the legality of this and what you're willing to open up to. So maybe we can revisit that in a bit, since we don't really seem to make any clear headway with this. So if you could just elaborate on your clear interest over here, we would like to start with that now.
Sure. I think the meeting was convened by the Indian side.
Right.
We're here to listen to what concerns you have. I think we've been very clear on our position. We have given the individual proper representation in the FGCM.
Yeah.
We have made sure that the confession was recorded in the presence of the magistrate. So basically, the procedure has been followed. As regards the consular access, we are on firm footing in that ground. We can deny consular access 13 times. We have the right to deny consular access even further. This is on the basis of the bilateral treaty that Tehmina mentioned, right? So yeah, I think. So what I'm trying to understand here is, are you not satisfied with our assurances of Mr. Jadhav having gotten a fair trial, or do you believe that you are the only persons capable of giving Mr. Jadhav a fair trial? And if not, what? As in, I'm trying to understand, why do you really require consular access? Is there some information that your side desperately needs?
Just to add on to it, if we have a better idea of what reasons you have to believe that Mr. Jadhav may not have been treated out very fairly, we may be in a better position to answer such specific questions. If just that could be clarified.
See, the question over here is not with regards to whether we can provide him a fair trial or whether you are not providing him a fair trial. We agree with your process, the legal process that you are currently going on with, and whatever the sentence is. But we do believe that at this point of time, this issue has certainly blown out of proportion. Because we do understand that the interest should only be with regards to the cross-border parties in this particular case, and with that regard, we just want to just ensure that this thing should be solved on an amicable basis. This is a mutual understanding that we need to ensure, because then this can also be a footing to in future negotiations or future this thing. So we completely understand your scenario, and we are not saying that you are not providing him fair trial. We have never said that. We never mentioned that you are not providing him fair trial. You have a process, you have a legal process. We respect it. We understand. Now, moving forward, this can be a great gesture on your part to ensure at least some sort of access to him, because once we cannot have any sort of access to him, it really does look like that this situation is certainly beyond us, because once we have certain understanding what is happening, once we are assured that at least he will have some sort of representation through the Indian High Commission over there, then this process is fairly equal to us, because we are not challenging the process in your country. What we are merely saying is that let us have some sort of consular representation. What do you think?
And that being said, of course, as I'm sure both of you are aware, everything that is said in this meeting is purely and strictly confidential, given the inherent nature of this negotiation itself. So, adding on to that, even if there is a consular access provided, you can, of course, control the information that is given to that individual, and it will only remain within the trial, of course. You can have whatever confidentiality clauses and pacts added to that. We are perfectly fine with signing a treaty
Exactly.
to the extent of which that kind of information can even be used or treated within or outside of your country as well. We have no problem in making any of those assurances, given that we have the authority to make them, and we would quite honestly, we would definitely be willing to make them in this scenario, simply to ensure that our citizen who is now in your country, at least he should feel that his voice is heard and that his country has not abandoned him. Because from his perspective, it's not really about sovereignty or a statute. It's simply about the fact that he's in a foreign country, subjugated against foreign laws, because he has been given a death sentence. He doesn't really understand these large and fancy terms. So we as his government want to ensure that he feels like we have his back, at least here.
Just the last point, I think we can agree that Mr. Jadhav entered Pakistan on his own volition, and that
Certainly.
anybody who enters any other person's country or any other country would be aware that those countries' laws would be applicable to them.
Certainly.
So we need not infantilize the individual also. Right? We can assure you that he's done certain things with his own knowledge and that he will be facing the consequences of it as being fair. Would you want to say something else?
Sir, we understand that he is a citizen of your country. You are gravely concerned about what is happening to him, and you'd just like some information about what is happening. Considering your request, we would like to take a short break. Maybe we can just talk about it amongst ourselves
Certainly.
and maybe see what can be done, because we understand to a certain extent that where your concern comes from. Once we discuss the problem in a bit more detail about what exactly it is, maybe if it does not breach our security exceptions, then maybe you can talk about some certain form of consular access. So let me just convene with my...
Just take a minute.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you for your patience, sirs.
Certainly.
After having a discussion, we believe that if the nature and extent of the consular access you require may be made more clear to us, we may be willing to test it against the touchstone of our security exception and then see what can be done. If you could make it more clear, what exactly do you want? Do you want some information from him? Do you want to transmit certain information to him? What exactly is the consular access that
If I
you
may
require?
just add to that very relevant question, I'm still not clear on whether this is merely a sort of a political move that that's sort of been put from top. I'm sure your PMO is a very influential and very sort of takes a hands-on approach in what your ministry does. So I just want to know, is this some sort of you don't want bad publicity, you want to showcase your leader as a very strong leader, or what really are you looking for by asking for consular access?
If I may just answer that in the simplest fashion possible, every state in the world currently at every point of time, they obviously don't want to portray a weak image to the world. That being said, currently we understand that the scenario revolving this entire incident, it's not really playing out too well in our country either. There is a large movement, at least from our masses, that aren't particularly too happy with this. Now, that being said, if Mr. Jaishankar would just like to take over.
See, the whole question over here is not with regards to the fact that what we're trying to do.
All right, so we can break for today and
We'll
certainly
talk
meet tomorrow.
Yeah.
because I believe we understood some of your concerns. We can talk about them further.
And if I may just make a parting request, if you could just give us a short summary tomorrow before we begin our second negotiation at least, on exactly what this touchstone of security is so that we can tailor a consular access that doesn't violate any of it.
Certainly, and you could
Because-
explain to us what you mean by consular access and what it
Certainly,
really
yeah.
is.
I believe then we
Yeah.
can both prep on that and meet tomorrow and start with that.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sirs.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, pleasure.
Hopefully meet
you
more
tomorrow.
progress. See you tomorrow.
Nice to meet you again.
Nice to meet you again.
Pleasure to meet you.
Hope you had a
hope you
pleasant
didn't have. Yeah, certainly. We were just about to ask you the same.
Thank you so much for the concern.
Let me just say, Shimla is a very beautiful city, and thank you for inviting us to
Certainly.
this place. Yeah.
There was a reason why it was a summer capital.
So yeah, I think you'd given us a very specific question at the end of day yesterday,
Yeah.
which was the kind of consular access that we're looking for and why we feel there are some issues with it.
Right.
I think Tahmina can tell you more, but let me just take here that I mean, we do this a lot, right?
Right.
One country has some concerns, it's mostly
Of course.
related to security, you can't tell them what security reasons are,
Certainly.
and you're very sort of apprehensive about giving the person to the other state because, well, who knows what information that person might say, right? So it was from that place where we're coming from, but I think we sort of tried to understand why you were also sort of demanding consular access, and we sort of understand that position also. We understand you're part of a government which tries to put up a strong face. We understand the public backlash that you're facing, and I'm really hoping today we can sort of move forward and make more progress there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Did you have something?
Thank you, sir. I think you have covered most of it. But I'd just like to reiterate that we understand the key concern here was one of transparency regarding one's own citizen in a country. And we understand that's a legitimate concern. So, to that end, sir and I were discussing what can be done about it.
Sure.
And we understand that as long as security is not compromised, we're willing to grant you some access.
Right.
Now, that access may be limited to, as sir has delineated, that information sharing is one important security threat
Right.
that we estimate may arise. To that end, we would want a right to, we would be willing to give you consular access as long as we can control what information is transmitted from the prisoner to your government.
Sure. We'd like to hear what you are thinking of in terms of consular access.
Just another thing, sorry, just before that,
Certainly.
was there anything else you would want either in alternative to such a qualified right of access or in addition to the same? With just something we're wondering about.
First of all, thank you. Like, this is something that, I think ideally what, we would have hoped for as well.
Yeah.
Because we completely understand, you would have your own concerns regarding national security, your own national integrity. And having said that, we feel that, at least if you have fine with it, we have no issues with regards to supervised, access at this point of time. Because, we believe that your concerns are there, we agree with that, we have no issues with that. And at the same time, we believe that, whatever access you are providing can be supervised. So, do you want to add something?
Right. Just taking from that, our main concern in this consular access is fair legal representation with regards to the legal strategy and let's say essentially the kind of case that he can fight in your country. I mean, we understand that he has a right to appeal which is expiring shortly. So we would like that he exercise it, and we would like that it is someone essentially from our end who is essentially addressing him and advising him on how he should run his case. Because as of course we understand, substantive law will remain substantive law, but procedurally there is a large grey area where a death sentence may be commuted to, let's say, a 10 or a 15-year sentence or even a life imprisonment. So of course from our end we're just trying to make sure that the man isn't actually killed by your country. Like that
Sure.
is among our primary concerns at the
I'd
moment.
just like to say, while we still firmly believe that the process has been fair,
Certainly.
I can understand where you're coming from. I can understand sort of place of concern that you would want some sort of a supervision over Jadav's whole political trial. Criminal trial.
Criminal trial, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. Please proceed.
It is not a political trial that we
No,
straight
that's
away.
fine.
So we could. So since you're okay with supervised sort of consular access, right? So that's one. We would like to have proper control over the kind of information that is transmitted. We would want a impartial individual. I think that's something we can agree upon. That's something.
Certainly.
That's a proposal we could explore.
If I just may,
If I miss the complete.
certainly,
yeah,
please.
I'm
Sorry.
so sorry. So by impartial, what I meant was we could perhaps bring in a third neutral country, which was friendly terms with both
Certainly.
of us. Iran comes to mind. We could talk
Of course.
about that and sort of solidify our sort of understanding on this particular issue.
Right. I think Sir again has covered quite a bit of what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Along with that, I would like to add that we understand if your concern is solely limited to Jadhav having a fair trial and you ensuring that he has adequate legal remedies and legal support, we believe that such information can be regulated and tailored according to a security interest.
Right.
Now, the reason we mention transparency in treatment and such concern is that we have received a formal notice from your government
Right.
that a citizen of ours is in your possession,
Yeah.
if that's the correct term. Anywho, the point being that we would be grateful if a similar reciprocal right is then granted to us based on this fair principle of transparency that we seek to acquire and implement. We understand that Mr. Zahir has a trial ongoing in India, or there are certain investigations ongoing.
I believe he's been charged with spying. Am I right?
See, first of all, let me just briefly summarize what has been happening, because there are two certain important issues out here.
Yeah.
So, first of all, thank you for covering almost everything, because we understand at this point of time, any sort of consular access supervised by you, tailored by you, with some sort of legal representation, and just to enhance the legal strategy that Mr. Jadhav would have in case of if he decides to appeal in this particular case, would be ensured. So just clarifying that, just ensuring that is something I think we both have agreed upon. And moving forward with regard to not Mr. Zahir but Lieutenant Colonel Muhammad Habib Zahir, he has been certainly been found in India. He has been there, and investigations are currently going on. And we believe that if you have reciprocated this whole situation with some sort of providing some sort of consular access, we believe that even we can provide the same. And the guarantees and the procedural aspects regarding it might be a little different in this situation as to what investigations actually reveal.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, he hasn't been termed as a spy or any sort of let's say what terrorist or anything. Nothing has been no particular term has been attached to him from our side or from anything. So I think we are very open to the suggestions put forward by you, and mutually we can maybe in forward decide as to how the consular access with respect to him can be agreed upon.
Just to be clear with the status of Mr. Zahir with the criminal law of India,
Yeah.
has he been charged with a particular offence? Because to the best of our knowledge, he was charged with spying. Is there any clarification you could provide to us on that?
See, at this moment, investigations are going on. Like
Okay.
certain information with regards to him being charged or with him being, arrested, or in the sense like putting a legal term to it, hasn't been done as of yet.
Right. So your position is there has not been a charge made. There has
Yeah.
not been a charge. The charge sheet has not been filed.
At least
against
formally not yet. We believe that is still in abeyance, and it's
Okay.
not something we would want to disclose at this point of time.
him. Okay.
Of course, that being said, we would just like to move on a little bit further along the same line.
Sorry, could we just tie
Yeah,
up
sorry.
what we were discussing?
Certainly,
So
please.
we would be granting qualified consular access to Mr. Jadhav in the
Right.
presence of a mutually agreeable, impartial Iranian official.
Right.
We will be making sure whatever information goes in and out is sort of, we will have an eye on that information, right?
Right.
And in return, we will be given some sort of a access to Mr. Zahir to make sure that his trial, which has not begun yet, in fact, he has not been charged yet, will take place fairly. So we'll have some sort of an observer status with regards to Mr. Zahir.
Before moving forward, I just wanted to clarify: the Iranian official is there as an observer for the process of the consular access, or
Or is he the supervisor who controls the information? We'd just like some clarity on that.
Sure.
Sorry.
Right. So I'm sorry. I apologize for using terms observer and supervisor interchangeably. What I meant was supervisor.
Yeah.
By that I mean he will be present in the room. He will be the only person present in the room, and he will make sure that the information that is given out by Mr. Jadhav to your consular officials does not detrimentally affect our strategic interests.
Right.
Correct.
Is that right?
Exactly, that is, along with the fact that he will limit the information that is sufficient just to ensure that this legal right remains uncompromised.
Right.
Yeah.
Only to that extent information may be shared, and that is what we are asking for that end.
I
Would
think,
that be something agreeable to
yeah,
you?
yeah, I believe that. I think that sort of understanding has been reached, because we believe that as long as there's a legal representation, as long as there's a legal strategy is intact, and he's been able to file the appeal properly, and amicably fight a proper case in your legal system, we believe that is completely agreeable to us, because you need to understand, over here we are not questioning anything. We are not questioning your legal system. We are not questioning you. We are not questioning the process. All we had requested for in the beginning was as well with regards to consular access. And having said that, moving to the case of Mr. Zahir, or Lieutenant Colonel Zahir, is that we would be also be agreeing to provide some sort of consular access, because investigations are generally going on right now, and formal intimation was made to you with respect to his his arrest, and now we haven't charged with him anything. There hasn't been any particular charge that has been put against him, but at the same point of time, we believe that some sort of qualifications can be made in this regard as to whether the consular access will be supervised or not, or what
Sure,
qualification,
sure.
like, so just the layers of qualification that might be put
Absolutely.
against the consular access that you might want to have
That.
with him.
I just wanted a clarification on
Yeah.
the nature of access that we have to Mr. Zahir.
Yeah.
This will be present even after he is charged and even after the trial begins. This will be a continuous access.
Right, so if I may, given your security interests and given the solution you've provided us, we feel it would be more than fair to at least start the negotiation at the same level of reciprocity, which means
Wonderful.
that if you are agreeable to the same sort of arrangement where an Iranian official is present with the same kind of control, because as I am led to understand, both of our countries do enjoy very good relations with Iran itself, and therefore we believe that in the spirit of reciprocity, since it is something that you feel is fair given that it has been arrived by you after your due process of consultation, be it amongst each other or with the rest of your state authorities, we feel like we would be, let's say, it would be an appropriate offer to, let's say, offer the same thing for Zahir in this case.
All right. So now that we have a concrete proposal from you regarding both these situations and incidents,
Right.
would you be agreeable that we take a short break amongst ourselves and discuss the proposal thoroughly, so
Certainly.
that we can come back to you with a concrete offer
Right.
on clearer
Yeah,
terms?
we have a concrete proposal so that we can give it to our PMOs
Yeah.
and make sure this works out. Yeah.
Please. Right. So I'm sure that your private caucus was quite fruitful. I mean, it looks like you've come to some kind of an understanding. And before we do proceed with this, and given all the work we've done so far, I'd just like to lay out that, of course, if we do fail to reach an agreement over here, it will reflect poorly on both of us, given that currently one of your citizens is pending investigation in our country. We're not really sure how his legal process will follow or what he will be charged with at this point. And given that our citizen is currently in your prison awaiting a death sentence, I think we can both agree that the alternative here is not something we would prefer in either scenario. So the negotiation is in fact the way to go.
Right, I think the negotiation indeed has been very fruitful till this point.
Right.
However, I do not particularly appreciate this reference to the death penalty, and I feel this is sort of a slide sort of a statement where, well, our country has given the death penalty to this individual, and your
No,
citizen
of
is
course
with.
not.
That's not
I
happening. Right?
I
Just to be
sincerely
clear.
apologize. I sincerely
Right,
apologize.
right.
That was not
Right.
the intent of, or the implication of my
Thank you.
statement so
Thank you.
far.
Right, thank you.
I'm just saying that the current legal status that he has been awarded
Right.
by the FGCM in Pakistan is that of a death sentence, like pending execution. and
You're just
whatnot.
mentioning that fact.
Certainly, it's just a fact. I'm not saying that there is any imputation, political, legal, or otherwise to
Thank
it.
you. Thank you.
Now, that being said, I think we both have quite a bit riding on this negotiation itself. At least for us, particularly,
Correct.
our interests will be served better if we reach an agreement here.
Sure.
And I'm assuming to some extent your interests are also clearly reflected in the
Sure.
same.
We're here on behalf of our country, and if our country's interests are met, our
Certainly.
interests are met.
Right. That being said, we'd just like to take this forward, and this is a bit of a stretch on our part, but given that we're running a little short on time, given the extensive number of issues and the history we really need to deal and delve into, as we understand currently, one of your citizens is pending investigation here. We don't know at this point of time why he was in India. We don't know what his status was. We don't know what his affiliation or involvement with your country is. We are quite clueless on that at the moment. And I understand it's casual language, but it's the only way that we can really put across our current understanding of the situation. Now, that being said, we would fundamentally be open to something like where pending his investigation, pending his trial, and pending, like, let's say, acquittal, conviction, or whatever else, we would like to return him to Pakistan.
Right.
If, of course, you are agreeable to, let's say, short of the death sentence, should any other, let's say, sentence be awarded to Jadhav, we can have him serve it out in India. Of course, again, under your supervision, you can have a superintendent appointed to make sure that his prison sentence is being served out in the due capacity. So before like going into the details or the technicalities of this, we'd just like to understand what your position on the general principle of this offer would be.
We want to take this.
Sir, again, after another proposal has been made, would you be again all right if we discuss this amongst ourselves?
Sure.
Because
So that we have no
uh,
confusion.
Yeah, this is sort of the end of the day, and there's this new
Certainly.
proposal. We believe we had already reached an agreement over another proposal.
And
So
I sincerely apologize for that, but given that some new information did come up that we were only informed about recently,
Right.
given that your position and your interest in your citizen who was recently, let's say, taken into custody in India, came out at a significantly later stage. So we're just trying to, let's say, I don't know, but we're trying to be flexible with the kind of remedies you want to push for here and see if we can get something else in an alternative to simply having, let's say, a third party supervise the kind of information that is exchanged and the kind of finality that there will be to the legal decisions.
sure, you're sort of looking for what we could call a spice swap. Is that right?
If Mr. Zahir is fine.
Certainly,
If at all,
which is
yeah.
what I was just about to point out. Thank you for
Well,
that.
I think
We don't really know
Sure.
what his
We'll
involvement
come
is.
back to
So
it.
Of course.
please.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you for your offer, sirs.
Certainly.
I must apologize, but after discussion, we believe that this would be a move that we may not be able to take without talking to our government. So pending that, if we could go back to what we were earlier discussing,
Right.
because we believe that was something much more in line with what we had in mind, and much more in line with what our government intends that we do and the powers that we have
Right.
currently.
Yeah.
Would you be okay if we sort of side stall that and get back to what we were discussing
Certainly.
earlier?
Sure. So see,
I apologize for the same.
We really appreciate your proposal, but we don't think we can agree to it.
Right.
We just want a proposal which our government will also take.
Right.
So,
see, we completely understand the situation and your condition as well. But moving forward, I think it will be beneficial for us if we could, just put some light on as to why we were thinking of that situation. Because we believe whatever our offer we made actually meant that whatever sentence he would serve in Pakistan, we would end up serving it in India, and under our supervision and third party supervision, as like qualification can be put on and decided by us mutually.
Right.
And the whole idea was to ensure that the interests of both the party are met. And since we have already met over here, something remarkable can be done, and something that will serve the interests of both the party in this particular case would be something beneficial for both of us. So the idea was to just ensure that we are both on the same position, same understanding, and just like it'll just be a stepping stone for us to move into a greater direction
Absolutely. I think we should just get back to clarifying on the understanding that we reached and
Yeah.
making sure that's the proposal that we'll be presenting to both our governments.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Right?
All right. For the first part, I understand with respect to Mr. Jadhav, would you be okay to a two-tiered supervision system? For example, at the first level, a Pakistani official will check what information is transmitted to the Iranian official. Then the Iranian official can check, is this information sufficient for him to get a fair legal trial? If not, obviously we can have another chat and then we'll be willing to provide you that information. Then this Iranian official can forward the same information to you. It just we require some level of check that no sensitive information is being leaked. That's our sole concern here,
Yeah.
if I have to be very frank.
Certainly.
And that's the same reason why we cannot give Mr. Jadhav back to you,
Of course.
because security reasons are paramount here.
All right.
Regarding the second question regarding Mr. Zahir, we understand there has been no conviction as of now and only investigation is taking place.
Exactly.
Correct.
So at this point of time, we only seek a limited right of an observer status regarding the investigation.
Yeah.
We just want to see that what is happening to our citizen,
Yeah.
and maybe we'll seek the same right of consular access after some progress has been made. We just reserve that right currently. Would that be agreeable to you?
Yeah, see,
Such an idea?
we certainly agree to the two-tier of supervision that you suggested, because our main priority over here is to ensure legal representation and full right to legal strategy, because that is our major concern. And on top of that, you can actually ensure that there is no sensitive information that has been passed over. Having said that, we also believe that it is important for us to understand why Mr. Zahir is there in this particular scenario, because we have no certain issues in this regard to have an observer, you as an observer, as to see what investigations are actually taking place in this regard and what charges, if any, would be put against him. We have no issues regarding that, and I think we completely agree to the fact that there can be you as an observer in this regard, and that can ensure that what's actually happening. Yeah.
Now, if I may just continue, I am given to believe that he used to be a lieutenant colonel in the Pakistani army, pre-retirement. You may correct me on that if I'm wrong.
Well, I mean, do we want to go through the facts of Mr. Zahir?
Is there any
that-
particular reason you mentioned the same?
No, so
just
the
to
only
clarify.
reason, so the only clarity I seek on this point is that since he does have some kind of affiliation to the Pakistani army, we believe there is a possibility of a similar type of security threat on our end as well.
Sure.
So to that end, instead of simply going with a two-tier system, at least for Jadhav at the moment, we would like to propose that the same be binding on Zahir as well. Given that there is a potential of a similar type of security risk or a similar type of information leak, it's just a potential that we'd rather address right now instead of again, come back to the same negotiation table,
Sure.
waste a lot more time trying to come to the same point, since all of this has already been discussed and agreed to. So would you be amenable to a similar type of process rather than, let's say, simply an observer entity? We could have a similar process set up where first we have an Indian officer vet the information that is being received through investigation, hand it over to an Iranian, let's say, independent official, and then he can then transmit the same information to your parties.
Right. This is in the case of us
Zahir.
wanting consular access post the charging and trial of Mr. Zahir.
Um,
As of now, what we merely seek is an observer status, just to sort of look through the files and look through what's going on in the procedure. Right? Is that
Again, if I may just clarify that a little bit from our end, see, since we see it as a potential, and again, this
Sure.
may be purely unfounded, but we'd rather preemptively take care of this than come back and have similar issues and have further disputes on this topic. Since there is a potential of some kind of sensitive information coming up, instead of directly relinquishing the files to you, we'd like to follow the same two-tier process. I mean, we're not really trying to limit your access or curtail any kind of right here. We are simply trying to put in place the same type of system, given that there is a potential of some kind of sensitive information coming out at a later date. Because, of course, we don't want there to be any confusion here, and we don't really want there to be any clash of interest or any prejudicial activity from either of our ends.
right? I just wanted to be very blunt. I think.
Please.
Will you be able to tell us what Mr. Jadhav was doing in Pakistan? Will you be able to give us any sort of further clarity? We have found with our process that he has been guilty. Would you be able to tell us what exactly his role was based on your internal intelligence and information? Is that something that you would be willing to sort of explain?
See, we can certainly go back on a lot of issues and start determining what what is there, why is there, what was the reason for his presence, why he was there. But I think we believe that since we've already reached some sort of solution in this regard, as to we can have some sort of consular access. Because again, I just want to reiterate for the sake of understanding that we are not challenging what you are doing or what the legal process you are following in your own country. What we are, the main focus is to ensure some sort of legal representation and legal strategy, which will again come under review through your two-tier supervision structure that you established.
I just wanted to, I completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I did not want to go back on any
Yeah.
of the promises that we
Yeah.
made. I just wanted to make sure that what we knew about Mr. Jadhav is something we commonly shared from the general information about this thing. That was all that I wanted to clarify.
Alright, so regarding your offer, I think we can again clarify amongst ourselves what exactly finally we can determine and go
We
back
just
with.
decide on that, and I think we can call it a day.
Sure.
Would that be alright?
Just right. So, Tahmina will sort of try and help us round up whatever we discussed.
Right,
And
yes.
we can,
Thank you.
finalize that.
Thank you. So after your particular answer to Sir's question, we believe we come back to where we were and we sort of agree to, for Mr. Jadhav's case, a two-tiered supervision system, which will allow him a fair right of legal representation.
Of course.
Regarding Mr. Zahir, right now we do not seek consular access. Right now we only seek an observer status because we aren't aware of what exactly is happening. In the future we can agree right now that we have a right to a similar consular access, and we can exercise that in the future as and when need may be. Would that be fair for you?
If I may just add on a little bit about
Sure.
our own Indian legal system. You see, an investigation by the police isn't an inherently public spectacle or something which is open to members outside of the investigating authority alone. Which means at present, even if we try to inquire into the particular details, we won't have that kind of access. So it's not particularly about us trying to deny you any kind of right or representation. We do guarantee that you will have fair representation should this go to a trial or should this go to court. And that is something we are completely for. And especially in the spirit of
Very
reciprocity.
simply, we just wanted access to the documents that Mr. Zahir would have access to under his rights in Indian law. Will that be provided to us?
Certainly, we believe that will be provided
Thank
in post the charge sheet anyway.
Sure.
And at that point of time, we believe that should they be vetted by the two-tier process that you yourself have, let's say,
Absolutely.
proposed in the scenario, and should it prove to not be prejudicial to our security interests, we will have no problem furnishing those documents to you.
That's wonderful.
And also just want to clarify, because there are certain aspects as to there have been times over the past 1 year where we have no sort of access as to what's happening with him. So during that legal representation and legal strategy fees, just want to ensure that you also provide some sort of documents as to the basis on which he has been charged, just to ensure clarity, and just to, because that would certainly ensure that the legal representation and legal strategies comes,
In fact, we will try and
manner.
make sure this reaches you even before
Yeah.
any consular official visits or
Yeah.
Mr.
Thank you.
Jadhav.
Yeah, and also in regard to the Lieutenant Colonel Zahir,
Certainly.
what we want to ensure is that once the investigation is over and we are sure of what is actually happening, with regards to that you will be intimated, and certainly your rights to consular access and your rights to access to his documents will be secure.
Thank you. Can I get the assurance that in case he is acquitted, Mr. Zahir will be extradited to our country?
See, in that we certainly cannot.
case he's acquitted,
See,
like, through your process.
see, in this case, we certainly don't want to make any sort of commitment as to what his legal status is.
Sure.
But once investigation is over, we are clear as to what the situation is, because at least on one regard, we both parties agree that he was a member of the army previously.
Yeah.
So there are certain aspects that we just don't want to deal with or commit to right now.
Right.
But moving forward, we will certainly be we will certainly understand your concerns and be able to see how to go forward.
And if I may just continue in the same line, we understand that the appeal period is for another 4 or 5 days for Mr. Jadhav as well. We would kindly request that he be permitted to file the same and then take, let's say, the court process of appeal through the same kind of two-tier consular access that we have so established.
If you feel that's the best legal option for Mr. Jadhav, you can.
Thank you so much. And in the same spirit, we would like any investigation, should it come up in at least our courts, to be followed in the same manner. Now, that being said, should either of the sentences be reduced, and this is just an even if scenario for the future, given that you also have certain concerns that are clearly not directly addressed or have not been given to you, and we clearly still have certain interests in, let's say, having the prisoners serve out sentences in their own individual countries respectively, we would like to simply request if at a future date there is, let's say, either a reduction in sentence or a potential acquittal or whatever else, we would just like to schedule a potential future negotiation, not necessarily in the same spirit of determining their legal rights, but simply to discuss potential creative solutions to the same, should you be amenable to it. Because of course I understand that we have garnered a certain kind of relationship here that we would like to take forward, and should the scenarios improve and should this level of trust be maintained and furthered, we would like to see a certain amount of, like, let's say, a certain progressive rights be granted to both prisoners in their respective jurisdictions across border.
Sirs, thank you for that. I think we can finalize the proposal we agreed to. Just before that can be a preliminary proposal. Since we have some time on day 2, I think then we can talk about this progressive system that you're talking about right now. We can have an agreement on the table, and if we gain some new information or gather some new interests, then maybe we can talk about amending this proposal or even having another negotiation.
Certainly.
So would you be all right with the proposal that we have agreed to, a 2-tiered system for both prisoners?
Certainly.
And right now an observer status for us regarding Mr. Zahir, which will be similar to this 2-tiered system. Whatever information his lawyers will get, we will get as well.
Yeah,
I think that's a fairly agreeable position, and taking this forward, we would just like to start discussing our proposal for, let's say, a future reduction in sentence or any kind of change in their current legal status under the courts. Now, what we essentially had in mind is, should, let's say, at a future date, Jadhav be commuted, let's say, of course, we understand that an acquittal doesn't seem like a very tangible solution, at least moving forward in the near future, but should it be reduced to life sentence or, let's say, 15 or 10 years of imprisonment, we still would want to push for a scenario where he can serve that sentence out in India under your supervision, and we have no problem should, let's say, a certain kind of prison warden, etc., be sent over from there to here. We will look after their maintenance, etc., and they can report back to you on a daily or a weekly basis.
Right. I thank you for all these proposals. As of now, I don't think we can sort of concretely give you our assurance on any of those proposals. However, let me be clear, you have a lot of options for Mr. Jadhav, or maybe after the media's attention on this dies down, maybe we can find an amicable solution in the future. You have the option of the mercy petition under Section 143 of the Army Act itself. You have the option of filing a mercy petition to the President of Pakistan. So I think those are options you can explore in the future, or once, say, the media glare is over, or once our sort of concerns about this entire issue is tied down, I'm sure. That's something which will take its natural course, and while we might not be able to assure you on the outcome of that particular option, we can assure you those options are available, and we feel those are options worth looking at in the future.
Just had one question with regards to the 2-tier system. So you said that Iranian official in this particular case would be supervising the thing. So is there a certain concern with regard to appointing only an Iranian official, or is there any third neutral party would be?
Right. I think the understanding we sort of arrived at was, since the Iranian official would be an impartial official, a country, Iran being a country that both of us have good relations with, we feel that would be sort of a neutral party where there would be no bias coming in. Right? We want to sort of achieve a consensus over there. There was no trade-off in the sense that there would be an impartial arbiter making sure that nothing sensitive which would affect us would be passed.
That's completely agreeable. Great. I just want to clarify as to if there must be some other.
No, it was just So I think we've achieved a lot of progress. I think we should just go back, report to our PMOs, perhaps go and look at more of. Is that fine, or do you have anything else to sort of?
We understand that, and the preliminary agreement is extremely good. We get that. We're just looking at this progressive reform system again regarding this. I'll go back to the question that Sir mentioned again. If you can make it clear to us frankly, would it be possible for you to answer whether Mr. Jadhav had any ties with the research and analysis wing.
Yeah.
Because then, if that is in fact not the case, then maybe you can think of any other solutions to our predicament. If at this point of time you are willing to consider that. Just
See,
thought.
the whole understanding with regards to this is that there are certain situations even we don't know, because there is no consular access, there's no understanding, there's no way to reach Mr. Jadhav in this particular case. Had it been the case last year, maybe in the first meeting, second meeting, or the third request that we had asked for, then we would have much more clear as to what the situation has been happening. So as of now, we would have no certain idea with regards to the fact that what is happening. So that is something that we would certainly don't want to, at this point of time, indulge into,
Sure.
and just look forward as to what's happening. And
I think we understand.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think we have an agreement to our
Right.
preliminary agreement. And in the future, if situations change and if new information comes to light, then we can discuss the status of both prisoners
Yeah.
and talk about another fair
Right.
deal, just
Yeah.
as I hope was done today.
Yeah,
I hope
of
this
course.
negotiation process was fair to you. And if you have any other concerns, you can air them right now. And we can talk about them and maybe address them at the next session or right now, whatever.
We are just thankful to you, because in this first place, to take this step and come forward and discuss and negotiate with regards to this is itself is a big thing for us, and we understand the concerns both the parties in this particular case face, and we hope that we'll be able to come to a solution moving forward, and this situation is solved as soon as possible.
That's great. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you so much
It's been
then.
a great meeting. So thank you.
Thank
The
you.
progress was good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We look forward to meeting you again and hopefully taking this forward.
Hopefully in not these circumstances, but great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
the time and thank you for the hospitality.
Thank you.
Thank you.